is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are sports. We are Sun.
We welcome you to Tropicana Field on this Friday night. Jackie Robinson Day throughout Major League Baseball. On this date in 1947, Robinson changed the game as we know it, becoming the first African-American player in the history of the Major League. 69 years later, every single player in the big leagues wears number 42. The only day of the baseball season you will see that number being worn on the field. The White Sox and the Rays kicking off a 3-game series tonight at Tropicana Field. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Tropicana Field. The Rays will have Jake Odorizzi on the mound against the White Sox, Chris Sale. But more importantly, we honor the legacy of Jackie Roosevelt Robinson Jr., who on this date 69 years ago broke the color barrier in the major leagues. And right now, let's check in with some major leaguers from around baseball with their thoughts and remembrances about Jackie.
It gives me chills even thinking about it. You know, what Jackie's done for the game and, you know, what for African Americans in general.
Without him, you know, who knows if I'll be able to play right now. So for him to go through what he went through, it really means a lot because I don't know if I could have did it.
You know, a lot of us can sit back and say, oh, if I was in that position, I would have done this or that. But truth be told, he took a stand. And, you know, it's a lot of things that a lot of us probably wouldn't have had the courage to do because it was a rough time.
He was a trailblazer, and for him to do what he did in the time period that he did it, you know, battling all that adversity, not just on the field, but away from the field, you know, for him to, you know, to keep his mouth shut and just to play the game and to show people the right way to play it, you know, is very special.
Jackie Robinson Day is always a special day. You know, it's paying homage.
I mean, I feel like everybody should just really understand that day, you know? I mean, he changed the world, just not in just baseball, but the world in general. And for me to just put my jersey on, put that 42 on my back, you know, I thank him and his family, his legacy, and everything he's done for this world and also for me.
'It's amazing that we get a chance to constantly remember and continue to educate people about what he did, not only for the game of baseball, but for the civil rights movement throughout not only the United States, but the world. He opened up so many doors and paved so many paths for people to do things that we get a chance to experience today. This is amazing. This is all thankful to Jackie Robinson.
69 years later, we continue to honor Jackie Roosevelt Robinson Jr. Every Rays player, every White Sox player, every Major League player and coach honoring Jackie Robinson today. We'll have the first pitch right around the corner.
Fox Sports Sun is brought to you by Ram Trucks. Guts, Glory, Ram. By Bright House Networks. Visit brighthouse.com. By Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. And by our local Toyota dealers. Let's go places. We welcome you to Tropicana Field tonight. The Rays and the Chicago White Sox open a 3-game series. Jake Odorizzi will go to the hill for the Rays, making his 3rd start, looking for his 1st win of the year, facing tall lefty Chris Sale, who is 2-0. We welcome you back to Tropicana Field. The homestand continues. Rays trying to find the winning side of the mark. They are 3-6 on the year, and tonight take on the Chicago White Sox. A quick look at the Chicago lineup presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Adam Eaton will lead it off, followed by Jimmy Rollins, and then Jose Abreu, Todd Frazier, Melky Cabrera, Brett Lawrie down the middle. Lawrie hitting 6th in front of Avisail Garcia, the DH. Alex Avila, most recently with Detroit, does the catching for the White Sox now. And Austin Jackson is in center field, and he will hit 9th, all against Jake Odorizzi. All set. Eaton off to a quick start. Goes after the first pitch and fouls it up the left side, out of play. We are underway. That first pitch presented by Pinch a Penny.
Well, Jake Odorizzi, his last start against the Baltimore Orioles. It was a big second inning by the Orioles. 4 runs in that second inning. He went 6 in that start. Ended up taking the loss, but threw the ball relatively well outside of that that second inning. And, you know, he talked about in spring training about becoming a more complete pitcher and not relying so much on the split changeup. We've really seen that come to play here in the first 2 starts, mixing in the cutter and curveball more than he has in the past.
And he gets Eaton to chase on the pitch up and strikes him out. So a 3-pitch strikeout for Odorizzi to start this game.
Well, let's go ahead and set the Rays defense for you. See how it's going to line up tonight. Behind Jake, brought to you by Gold and Diamond Source. A little different look here tonight. In the outfield left-right, we have Desmond Jennings, Kevin Kiermaier, and Brandon Guyer. And across that infield third to first, Evan Longoria, Tim Beckham, Logan Forsythe, and Steve Pearce with Kurt Casale behind the plate.
First pitch to Jimmy Rollins, veteran shortstop over from the National League. There's a shot deep into right field. Guyer will go to the wall for this one. It's over his head. Kiermaier plays the carom. Back into second it goes. And Rollins is in with a double. Boy, he jumped on that one.
He did. He was able to get on top of a fastball that was up in the zone, and it almost looked like Brandon Guyer got caught drifting a little bit there. That ball stays in the yard, and you see Brandon trying to get a beat on it as he's going back towards the wall. A late jump, but he comes up a little bit short. Right there, looked like he's going to time it up, like he lost it there for a second almost, because you see that little change in his route, and then the jump right there into the wall comes up a little short.
So just like that, the scoring threat by the White Sox, and they have Jose Abreu, who has been the RBI producer deluxe for them. And the first pitch to him misses. 1 ball, no strikes.
I think what makes that even more impressive is this offense was so anemic last year that he is the focal point of it. And still in his 2 seasons with the White Sox, 66 home runs.
There's a strike. 1-1.
I mean, this group last year, they scored the fewest runs in the American League, hit the fewest home runs, didn't walk, terrible on base and slugging percentage, and yet he still gets it done when you know every team is trying to shut him down.
Lays off a pitch upstairs, taking it to 2-1. Into center field, Kiermaier makes the catch, and no attempt by Rollins as Kiermaier fires it all the way to third to Longoria after the catch.
Well, that's why Jimmy Rollins never left second base. I mean, that ball, when he saw it was going to be run down by Kiermaier, he just stayed planted on the bag.
And look at him.
Right.
He knows what he's doing out there.
Yeah. Listen, he's been around long enough, and that throw was outstanding.
So 2 gone in the first. And here's Todd Frazier. White Sox bring him in to do 2 things. Add a big bat to their lineup and add a great glove at third base. Strike 1. As you mentioned, you chronicle the offensive issues the White Sox had last year, and boy, he is a big addition in that department. And we'll talk about this because they have that rotation loaded with lefties, and pretty good idea to have a good left side of the infield with all those left-handers.
Well, you think about all of the right-handed lineups that they're going to face, including tonight, 8 of the 9 for the Rays, and so you think about all those guys turning on pitches, and so yeah, the left side had better be able to gobble them up because they're going to see a ton.
1-1. Odorizzi with starts against the Blue Jays and the Orioles in the book now. Facing the White Sox tonight. Down the left field line. That ball's got some twist to it, and it's a foul ball. It hooked foul, fortunately for the Rays.
Well, that was an off-speed pitch down and in, and watch Frazier just he drops the head and look at the curl at the end. I mean, just foul. Only because that ball was working its way in and off the plate was that ball hit foul. Boy, it catches any more of the plate. Well, that's what he brings to the table. 2 home runs this year, had 35 last year, 29 the year before.
Robin Ventura, the manager. 5th season with the White Sox. He knew something about playing third base. Cut to miss. Foul tip strikeout got him. Frazier out on strikes. 2 strikeouts in the inning. Rays coming in to hit, no score. Coming to hit at the bottom of the 1st inning with Logan Forsythe set to lead it off. Great starting lineup presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Brandon Guyer hits 2nd, and then Evan Longoria. Pierce is the cleanup man. Jennings and Souza Jr. down the middle to follow Tim Beckham, then Kevin Kiermaier and Kurt Casale. Facing big Chris Sale, the lefty. Pitch number 1 is a strike.
Well, here are the Toyota keys to the success of Chris Sale. Number 1, deluxe stuff. You got the power fastball, the sweeping slider, and also a changeup that he will throw the right-handed hitters. And he misses bats. I mean, this is a guy on pitches in the strike zone. He had the highest swing and miss percentage in the American League, so he knows how to put guys away. But the Rays could be the kryptonite of all the teams in the American League. Chris Sale has the worst ERA of any team, and it's the Tampa Bay Rays. As a starter, just 2-4 with a 4.66 ERA in 6 starts.
Isn't that amazing? And it still doesn't prevent him from missing bats in the Rays lineup either. I mean, he's got plenty of strikeouts against this lineup. There's a shot to right field. Eaton's going to go backpedaling down on the track to make the catch. And Forsythe is the first out.
Let's take a look at that Chicago White Sox defense and see how it's going to line up here tonight. Brought to you by Gold and Diamond Source. In the outfield, left to right, Melky Cabrera, Austin Jackson, and Adam Eaton. And across that infield, third to first, Todd Frazier, Jimmy Rollins, Brett Laurie, and Jose Abreu with Alex Avila behind the plate.
Well, here's Brandon Guyer getting a start. 1 for 7 on the year, and 1 for 3 in his career against Chris Sale. Boy, you talk about a fastball. There's a pitch coming in at 96, and that was right there in on Guyer. You could see him trying to battle that pitch off and fouled it. Oh, and then you follow with that.
Right.
Yeah, already you're doing that.
And you know, just one thing to keep an eye on here tonight is Chris Sale. Watch the arm angle and then factor in that he is 6 feet 6 inches tall. So lanky, low three-quarter, nasty break, big-time velocity. Does a great job of boring that fastball in on the righties and then taking it away with a little bit of movement. He's a tough customer.
And he checked. Take a look at this.
What you see, Brandon did not even stride. You know you've got to get it started early, a 2-strike approach, because you know that this guy can put you away. And so he's just staying as simple as you can get in the batter's box.
Lifts it into right center. That will carry and be caught by Eaton. So 2 up and 2 down against Sale and Evan Longoria will bat. Evan with a couple home runs this year, hitting .270. Fouls it back. That's a strike. Sale has lost his last 3 consecutive starts against the Rays. The only team to have topped that mark with the Rays with their 3 consecutive wins over Sale would be the Indians. They've beaten them 4 straight times. That was back in 2013.
Well, tip your hat to both teams because that is not easy to do. This is a guy that on any given night, he's got that no-hitter type of stuff. And the fact that he doesn't walk a lot of guys either for his kind of strikeout numbers, he's got perfect game type of stuff. And that's difficult.
Gloria making contact and fouling it away. Stays wide, just wide, 2-2. Cut and a miss. First strikeout for Sale. 1-2-3 go the Rays. No score. Tonight at the Trop. Hey, follow Rays Baseball live with the MLB.com @bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day. Live game video highlights, stats cast, news, and more. Download MLB.com @bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone or tablet. Jake Odorizzi facing Melky Cabrera. A ball, no strikes. Cabrera off to a .324 start.
He's had 4 straight multi-hit games. He's a gap-to-gap line drive hitter from both sides. Probably better from the left side.
2-1. He'll be followed by Brett Lawrie and then Garcia. Shot to first, and Pierce will make the play unassisted. One gone here. Tonight's game between the Rays and the White Sox, broadcast on AFN, the American Forces Network, broadcasting to the U.S. Armed Forces serving around the world on land and on ships at sea. We welcome and salute you. Thank you for your service. Brett Lawrie. We were talking about the mouthpiece the other night. Remember, it's now a fashionable thing. Laurie's appears to have fangs.
Oh boy, yeah. But did you ever doubt for a second that Brett Lawrie would have one of these?
No. No.
I mean, just having watched him,
he's one of our favorite guys to watch. I mean, he's got something going all the time.
Now he just put that back, so maybe it was just that he had it forward. He looked like a wolf man.
There's a strike to him. The only thing is he's quicker than the wolf man. When you see him in action out there.
Quick twitch.
Yep.
Quick twitch muscles. No doubt.
2-2. You know, there were times last year when the White Sox thought things were a little too low key. Well, boy, they've addressed it with him. I mean, you talk about a guy who's going to change the tenor of your team.
Going to rile up the clubhouse.
There's the guy.
No doubt about that.
He shoots this one toward the deepest part of the park. That's well tagged. One hop and over the fence for a 2-base hit.
And I will tell you this, from all the at-bats that we've seen from Brett Lawrie when he was a member of the Toronto Blue Jays and then going out to Oakland, this was the quietest I can remember seeing him at the plate. There's usually a ton of movement. His body is moving towards the pitcher as the pitcher is delivering the pitch, but he stayed quiet there. And boy, he got into this pitch and drove it with authority way out there deep left center field.
Yeah, you almost felt as if there was too much action there, too much distraction, but boy, if he puts that all together,
yeah,
and organizes that, I mean, you get a look right there at what he can do. Now, Abisail Garcia, such close. It's a ball. Garcia with a couple home runs this year. One and one.
This is another hitter in this White Sox lineup with a ton of potential, a ton of strength.
Boy, that's for sure. You know, when he came up with Detroit, now over with the White Sox, hit 13 home runs last year, and he can be an aggressive hitter. He will chase a lot of pitches. He's so aggressive. White Sox trying to remind him that, you know, he doesn't have to swing the bat as hard as he can because he's so strong. Just with good solid contact, he can do some damage.
And you know what? You've got a great example sitting, on the bench. Jose Abreu, another big, strong guy who's so smooth. I mean, he's got a smooth, easy stroke and lets the strength let that ball jump off the bat. Doesn't try to create strength unnecessarily. I mean, just stay nice and quiet, quick to the baseball, smooth swing, and it'll go. And that's what they're trying to convince him of, and really he needs to look no further than the man playing first base.
3-1. So the White Sox with another 2-base hit coming with 1 out. And there's ball 4. The double followed by the walk to Garcia.
Jake Odorizzi coming with that changeup. Boy, that's a borderline pitch. Right down there around the knees. Certainly had the plate. Did not get the call.
Alex Avila. 3 for 17 to start the year. 1 of 7 against Jake Odorizzi. Jake misses with a first pitch fastball.
Get a quick visit here by Kurt Casale to try to get Jake back into the zone.
Well, that's important too. He has not thrown a first pitch strike to any of these hitters here in the second inning.
And last year you look at Jake Odorizzi's numbers against hitters leading off an inning, and he was fantastic. This year, coming into this ball game, half of the guys that leading off an inning have reached base, and so it's those quick starts, those early strikes, and then let your stuff go to work.
Lays off, ball 2.
That's where Jake is so effective, is getting those early strikes and then expanding from there, because as we know, Jake Odorizzi's not afraid to expand in any direction, in, out, up, or down, but you've got to be ahead in the count to be able to do that.
He is way behind Avila now. 3-0. It's a strike. 3-1. Runner at first, Garcia. Laurie at second. Cut and a miss. Full count now. Came in with a fastball there, 3-1.
And Avila got a little bit long in the swing, and he just powered it right by him. A couple of changeups earlier in the count may have bought him a couple extra miles an hour on that fastball as far as the swing goes, and now he's right back in it.
Ground ball first. Pierce down to second. Beckham back to first to Odorizzi, and the Rays get the double play. So Jake way behind in the count on Avila. Comes back to get the double play ball and get out of that situation. Here's the double play. A man left, no score through an inning and a half. Bottom of the second, tonight's Rays broadcast can make you a winner. Enter now for a chance at tonight's Rays Up to Win prize, a Rays executive suite, including 28 tickets and 6 parking passes. The winner's name will be shown live on the air in the 8th inning. Visit RaysBaseball.com/Rays Up to Win and to enter. Go online now to register Rays Up. Well, Steve Pearce against Chris Sale. And Pearce goes after the first one, lifting it into center. Austin Jackson is there to make the catch. Well, Pearce and Sale matching up. Sale out of Lakeland High School, Pearce out of Lakeland High School. And he jumped on that first pitch. The one pitch in the first matchup of those two tonight.
Inter-squad game. That's what that is.
Now Desmond Jennings. Pearce came into this game 3 of 9 against Sale. Want to know the count? Down the right side, out of play.
These Rays hitters not going to let too many fastballs go by. I mean, you see, if it's straight and it's near the plate, these guys are taking a rip.
There's a base hit into center. Jennings serving that one in.
Well, he was able to keep his hands back just enough, because that was a pretty good changeup there by Chris Sale. But Desmond's going to lengthen the swing a little bit. His body's out in front, the hands stay back, and he's able to flip that ball into center field for a base hit. That was well done.
So the Rays get their first base runner. Steven Souza Jr., the DH tonight, steps in there. It's foul back. Souza Jr. in front of that pitch, fouling it. Another thing about Sale, now here's a big guy, and he's not easy to run against. There was a time a few years ago when he gave up a lot of stolen bases, but that has flattened out.
Well, you prioritize. He does have the built-in advantage of being a lefty, so he can, he'll vary his times because he does have a little bit of a leg kick. And you're right, being 6'6", there's a lot that has to get started and headed towards home plate. But vary some times, vary some looks, make sure that runner is try to get him to sink into their heels a little bit.
Souza Jr. is out on strikes.
Well, that's why you don't want to get deep into the count with Chris Sale, and that wasn't even his best slider, but it certainly caught Souza Jr. by surprise. This ball kind of hangs up there, and Souza Jr. with the swing was a little bit late, like he did not recognize that pitch.
Two gone. Tim Beckham playing shortstop tonight up there. Strike one. Beckham has 3 official at-bats in his young career against Sale, 0 for 3 against him. Quick right there.
Yeah, that's the tough one. The one that he bores in on you. He's got that lower release point, but then drives the ball to the top of the strike zone close to you. And so you just get all tied up. It's so hard to get on top of that pitch. The angle at which it's thrown and where it ends up.
It's a ball and 2 strikes.
And that's the other reason that he's done a better job of controlling that running game. As you see the slide step, he'll mix that in every now and then.
Well, you know, in 3 or 4 years ago, there were 19 stolen bases against him and only 2 caught stealings. Last year, 5 steals, 4 caught stealings with him on the mound. And he strikes out Beckham. Boy, that whole at bat showed you why he's so tough. On to the 3rd, scoreless. Tonight's Geico Great Moment. Baseball honors Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson Day. Breaking the color barrier in 1947. Rookie of the Year, MVP, Hall of Famer. First pitch into Austin Jackson is a strike. On this date, 1947, history made in baseball. 311 for his career and 6 World Series appearances, including 1 World Series championship. And over and above that, the social impact made by Jackie Robinson. And baseball every year recognizes that contribution. 2-2 here to Austin Jackson. All the players wearing number 42. Count is full. Rizzi right now, his pitch breakout, 20 strikes and 18 out of the zone. Down to 3rd, handled by Longoria. So that's the first out.
And that's not exactly the ratio that you would like to see, but the most important thing is Jake has kept the White Sox off the board, and you figure as the game continues to move on, he'll sharpen things and tighten things up.
Now Adam Eaton. Strike at the knees, and sometimes, and you could speak to this better than most, having been out there yourself, but sometimes you start a game and your perception of the strike zone might be just a little different than the plate umpire. Breaking ball that hangs up there. Jennings on the run over the shoulder, and he makes the catch. Ball carried to the track, and Eaton is out, number 2.
Listen, Adam Eaton has some surprising pop for a guy that's not a big guy. He had 14 home runs last year. Hits his ball the other way. You see how much ground that Desmond had to cover and made a nice wide receiver-ish catch right there with both feet in.
Yeah, that's his favorite catch in the outfield.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
He likes to be in that position and makes it quite well. Jimmy Rollins. And there's a strike. We're talking about defining that strike zone. Sometimes, you see it a little differently than that guy behind the plate does.
Yeah, and
you have to adjust.
There have been a number of pitches already in this game on both sides to where you're saying, that looked like a pretty good pitch.
Yep.
And you don't get it. And you're right. You have to figure out what is that umpire's strike zone going to be like tonight.
I was just wondering if you felt that way because I got that same feeling.
And you know why? It's not that you're going to completely adjust your game plan according to his strike zone, but if there's a pitch that he's not calling, when you have to go to a spot in a tough count, you can't go there because he's not going to call it.
Yep.
Why would you, in a full count, tight situation, throw a pitch to an area where you're going to try to lock the hitter up, but if he's proven that he's not calling that pitch, why are you going to go to it?
Yep. Well, this one down the left field side. Enough slice to go foul. So the count holds at 2-2.
And a lot of guys, there's a scouting report. If you want that information, you can get that coming in. Just like the umpire scouting reports that for you from time to time will bring up.
Yep.
Hey, let's look for this because this is how he typically calls the game. Yep. Now we'll see on that given night, but most guys stay pretty consistent.
The 2-2. Oh, he got him. That one came back. Collins caught looking. 1, 2, 3, go the White Sox. No score.
Tonight, as we honor Jackie Robinson and all that he accomplished in breaking barriers, we also recognize the Rays organization and our community leaders throughout the Tampa Bay area that have also incorporated the personal values that Jackie held in such high regard. During our pregame show tonight, we aired a special feature interview with Pinellas County Commissioner and Rays Breaking Barriers founding task force member Ken Welch. We'll air that again during the postgame show. And if you can't make the postgame show, you can always watch it at RaysBaseball.com or Twitter at RaysBaseball or Facebook at Facebook.com/Rays. It's all part of a well-deserved tribute to Jackie Robinson tonight at Tropicana Field as we honor number 42. Right now, let's go back to the booth.
Thank you, Todd. 2-0 the count to Kevin Kiermaier. There's a strike. Kiermaier, Casale, and Forsythe. Played in. It's now 3-1. Kiermaier trying to snap a hitless streak. 4 for 25 to start the year. And Kevin 0 for 18. Let it out on the fastball there. 3-1, a full count now.
No, it's not going to be easy with the guy that's on the mound. The angle that he creates, so tough against lefties. And we've seen Kevin Kiermaier over the course of last season get better and better and better. It's hanging in there and staying in against lefties to the point that because of all that he brings to the team and all the different ways that he can affect a game, he's in the lineup against maybe the toughest lefty to face.
And he's 2 for 3 in his young career against him. Pops it up. Laurie out from second base. One gone.
He managed to round second on that pop-up 2-second. Energy to burn, both of them. The guy that caught it and the guy that hit it.
They're so fun to watch. I mean, there's the man in motion right there. He cannot stay still. And you're just never going to catch that guy. I mean, hustling all the time.
Well, he's like, I haven't run the bases in a while.
He's got a lot of pinup energy.
Yeah, I'm going to go visit second base. Maybe see you later tonight.
Kurt Casale rolls it foul. Kurt's 3 for 11 on the year. Down and in. 1-1. White Sox come in with a record of 7-2. They've won 4 in a row. 5 out of their last 6. Hot shot foul back a third. So the White Sox starting the day tied for first in the Central Division. Kansas City 7-2, the White Sox 7-2.
And you figure that division, it's going to be tight. We just saw the Cleveland Indians, Kansas City Royals defending champs. The White Sox have bolstered their team for this year. That's going to be a good race, just like the American League East is going to be a great race.
And Casale's out on strikes. So the first time through, 4 strikeouts for Chris Sale.
Well, you mentioned it early, Dwayne, and his career against the Rays, he averages 14.5 strikeouts per 9. Now, they've gotten the best of them in the win-loss record and the ERA, the highest against any team, but boy, he still is going to punch guys out, and that slider right there is just not fair.
And he is using that slider as the strikeout pitch, walking his way right through the lineup. There's a check swing back at first to Abreu. Sale will cover. Forsythe is out 3-1, and the Rays are out 1-2-3. On to the 4th, scoreless. 4th, and here's your chance to get a steal, fans. Tonight's steal of the night, featuring press level tickets for any game versus Baltimore, April 25th through the 27th for just $19. That's half off the regular price, available tonight only. Visit raysbaseball.com/steal or call 888-FAN-RAYS for more information. Rays up. Jose Abreu takes a strike. Interesting to watch Odorizzi work here. Second time through, he's kind of settled in. Manny Gonzalez calling the balls and strikes. And we've kind of figured out that he's pretty true to his reputation. He'll widen the zone a little bit.
Yeah.
You'll get stuff on the corners, both sides of the plate. This one caught by Forsythe. Kind of a combination of it caught him and he caught it. One gone.
Yeah, the backhand up the middle, the backhand on a ball that had a lot of English on it. This ball gets smoked. Look at that, like a left-handed nasty slider.
I tell you, it's amazing to see a guy make that catch.
Yes.
That is tough.
You're moving, and like you saw from that great angle from behind the catcher, the action on that ball, how much sink that had.
People talk about all kinds of sports and the action in sports and how fast a particular game may or may not be. If you don't think this game is fast and quick, you go try to make that play. Wow.
That was one of the Mike Hargrove sitting during a rain delay talking about the game of baseball, saying, the funny thing about this game, and it's probably true of any sport, the further you get away from it, the easier it looks.
Yep.
He said you sit in the dugout, a ball goes in the gap, you see where everybody should be lined up, you go in the stands, the pitches don't look quite as hard. He said you watch a game on TV and it looks like everybody can play it.
Yep.
Until you get out on that field and realize how quick this game moves. Very little margin for error. And it's a different animal. I mean, you come out and watch Tom Foley hitting ground balls to Evan Longoria during batting practice. Those are routine ground balls during batting practice. I guarantee you, if you took most guys out of the stands, put them out there, they get on you in a hurry.
Yep.
And they're just going through the motions.
It's a liner into left, a base hit. Jennings will make the pickup, and Todd Frazier's aboard. I tell you, when that occurred to me, and your experience is different because you played this game at all levels. I didn't, and for good reason. But as an amateur, you could play when you're a kid. You could play in high school, and you go, okay, good, all right, it's fine. And then I happened to 100 years ago get my first minor league job, and back in those days, a little informal. So every once in a while, they'd let you sneak out, maybe, and during BP and field some ground balls and things like that. Here's a ground ball base hit. Cabrera is aboard, and now Frazier goes to second, 2 men on with 1 out. I had a couple of those balls hit to me, and I go, oh, wait a minute. That was AAA baseball, and I'm going, yeah, okay, I got a real healthy appreciation for how quickly that ball gets on you if you're out there. And that ball that Forsythe caught, that was not easy.
That line drive was a rumor to Jake Odorizzi. He heard something about it. He may have heard a sound. He certainly didn't see it.
Yeah.
And then this guy has to move to his right and then catch a nasty sinker coming back to his left.
And now Odorizzi facing the challenge with 2 men on and 1 out. Scoreless game in the 4th. Brett Lawrie. And he takes one low. Lawrie doubled into left center field. He really squared one up in the 2nd. He came into this game 6 of his last 16. Now 7 out of 17. 2-0. Jake pitched around, having a man in scoring position in the 1st and a couple men on in the 2nd. Had a 1-2-3 third. There's a strike. 2-1. Avisail Garcia on deck. 2 with that foul ball. Like the fastball.
And a nice job by Jake to be able to work himself back into this count. 2 runners aboard, a 2-0 start to this at-bat. Not exactly where you want to be, but right back to even and the chance to put him away.
Ground ball. Longoria down to second. One, first base. Safe over there. Now Frazier goes to third. Cabrera's out at second. And there's a little hesitation by the Rays manager, Kevin Cash, but
Evan knows he's got to get rid of it quickly. Logan with the quick turn, and it's close down there at first. Called safe, but I'll tell you, Brett Laurie did a nice job of getting up that line, and he did indeed beat that out.
That's why Kevin stuck his head back in the dugout. Says we'll save one. So it's first and third with 2 outs. And Avisail Garcia is going to be the hitter. You know, here's a big hitter too, not only because there are a couple men on, but he's a 7th hitter. You'd like to get him out and start the 5th with the 8 and 9 spots before you get to the leadoff man again.
That's how you manage a lineup. You're absolutely right.
So a big hitter in Garcia in more ways than one. And that one is by him, strike 1. That's one thing he has done, is chase pitches up. And the White Sox have addressed that, attempted to address that with him, trying to get him to lower that zone a little bit.
Well, if you're going to chase up against Jake Odorizzi, you're going to have a long night because he will work that. And you see he's been working him in his first 2 at-bats. Going to come right back in there. That was an off speed. That was a changeup. But they're trying to keep Garcia wants to get extended. So they're trying to crowd him and pitch him at the top of the strike zone. Those have been tough pitches for him to lay off of.
Back in over at first. In on it, popped into shallow center. Out goes Forsythe. He collides with Kiermaier. They managed to hang on. Kiermaier down a little bit. Let's hope that everybody's all right in that collision between Forsythe and Kiermaier. Forsythe comes away limping, and Kiermaier holding his head on that ball caught by Forsythe in shallow center field. We'll take another look here as the top of the 4th concludes, and the collision out there, let's hope that everybody is good. Getting up and walking off after that collision. There appeared to be some head-to-head contact out there in that collision between Forsythe and Kiermaier. And Forsythe also came away limping. Here's another look at all that.
Two guys trying to make a play. And Logan he got hit pretty good with that foot too, and you see you see Kevin's head get snapped around.
So in all of athletics now, they're so cognizant of head injuries and concussions. So the Rays will be extra cautious here.
Well, you saw Ron Porterfield, the head trainer, walking down behind the dugout with Kevin Kiermaier and Logan Forsythe. He was able to make it off under his own power, but still, you saw that initial limp. He got that ankle banged pretty good.
It's interesting. I mean, he was at least in the dugout attending to that left ankle. And during the collision, it appeared at one point that the right ankle was rolled as well. So we're assuming, we don't know for sure which one, but he was, when he got back to the dugout, dealing with his left leg as well as the head-to-head contact there. So we'll get further word as they evaluate that. And then Brandon Guyer opens the bottom of the fourth, taking a strike from Chris Sale. So there have been some threats by the White Sox. They've had men in scoring position in 3 of the 4 innings, but no score in this game. And a tap third, glove by Frazier, across to Abreu. One out, base is empty. Having the first of 4 strikeouts recorded by Chris Sale tonight. This one down to third. Frazier right on the money with his throw. So 3 pitches and 2 outs here in the bottom of the 4th.
Well, let's take a look. Go inside the numbers here with Chris Sale against the Rays. And you can see the difference. Boy, oh boy, on the road here at Tropicana Field, outstanding. Now, it does have the losing record, but you'll take that 2.14 earned run average. And how about the opponent's average against of 156? A lot of punch outs. And he's been very good in this building. And very good here so far tonight.
Steve Pearce takes the first pitch. This time for a strike. Hopper short right center. That will be caught by Eaton. And the Rays are up and down on 5 pitches. Scoreless through 4. Well, the Rays will be forced to make some defensive changes after this play to end the fourth inning, the top of the fourth, the collision between Forsythe and Kiermaier, and both are going to leave the game. Brandon Guyer will move over to play center field from right. Corey Dickerson is now in the game in right field, and on the infield, Rays will make changes around second base as well. Brad Miller is going to go to short, and Tim Beckham at second. Alex Avila leading off. Inside is Brad Miller. Miller right now actually stationed on the first base side of second with the shift on, but he's the shortstop, and Beckham is at second base now. He's playing short right field at the moment.
And it'll be interesting to see the thought process of Kevin Cash and where he put these fielders, because you would think off the top of your head, okay, Jennings slides into center, Brandon Guyer stays in right, Corey Dickerson goes to his familiar left, but that is not the way, and you know that there's a good reason behind it.
Avila into short right, and Beckham from out there makes the play. Getting right into the shift. Avila is the first out in the fifth inning. It'll be Austin Jackson.
Center fielder Austin Jackson.
Jackson started the year with a 6-game hitting streak. Rounded out to third his first time up tonight. Shortens and takes the pitch low. Ball one. Jake Odorizzi on the hill, opening this series against the White Sox, facing Chris Sale. Back into the screen. The count is 1-1. White Sox opened the season with a couple of wins over Oakland. Won 2 out of 3, or actually won 3 out of 4 in that opening series. Ooh, there's a strike on the corner, and the count goes to 1-2, and that's what Gonzalez will do. We started to discuss that last inning. You're not always going to get the pitch at the knees or the pitch up, but he will give you the pitch on the corners.
Even if it's at the knees.
That's right. Here's Miller. But if it's on the corner, sometimes a little off the corners, he tends to widen the plate a little bit, but has consistently been that way, and that's fine.
As long as it's consistent. You know, you're not going to agree with every home plate umpire's version of the strike zone, but as long as you can realize, you know, that it's consistent, you know the areas that are safe to go to, then you can live with it, and that goes for the hitter and the pitcher.
Good chop by Eaton. Beckham lobs this one to first. 1-2-3 inning for Odorizzi. Through 4.5 scoreless at the Trop.
Heading into the bottom of the 5th. It is Jackie Robinson Day. All the players and coaches around the league will be representing Jackie Robinson wearing the number 42. The Rays also did their part and had a pregame celebration. They honored 9 community leaders who represented Robinson's 9 core values. Emery Ivory threw out the first pitch for the Rays. Great to see these people and the Rays in our community following Robinson's footsteps 69 years later. Dwayne?
Emily, thank you very much. On this night when baseball and the Rays recognizing Jackie Robinson breaking in 1947. Jennings lifting a little popper into right. Eaton comes on and makes the catch. So Jennings, who had singled in the 2nd inning, it's to this point the only hit for the Rays, is out number 1 in the 5th.
And you know what? This is the first time, Dwayne, and ironically coming from a power pitcher, but this is the first time that I've seen a pitcher pitching to the Rays' aggressiveness. You know, we calculated last year, the last 2 months, how aggressive they were, how aggressive they've been in the first week and a half, 2 weeks of this season, and just swinging at everything. And look at what Chris Sale is doing. If you go back over the last couple of innings, how many first pitch breaking balls, first pitch changeups? Last inning was a 5-pitch inning. That's how guys are going to start attacking this lineup. If you're going to swing as soon as they throw pitch number 1, they're not going to throw you the fastball. They're going to give you the off speed. They're going to get quick, easy outs. And that's going to be the challenge of this lineup, is to be aggressive, to want to swing the bat, be ready to swing the bat, but to stay disciplined, or you're going to see a lot of those 7-pitch innings, 6-pitch innings.
You know, it's almost a cliche, but cliches are that for a reason. Souza Jr. is out on strikes for the 2nd time tonight. They talk about adjusting. It's a game of adjustment.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
That's right.
The team last year, the last couple months, became more aggressive. They knew coming in that sooner or later you just can't stay aggressive the whole time. You're going to have to adjust. Well, the point you make is just right on point. They're going to have to adjust.
Well, they lead Major League Baseball in swing percentage, and it's really not that close. Look, I mean, everything. And so you're going to have these pitchers now know that first pitch fastball, strike 1, you know, out over the plate's not going to work against this lineup. So if you're going to go with the fastball, you're going to elevate it, you're going to put it on the corner, you know, you're going to try to make a pitch with it, and you're going to use an awful lot of off-speed pitches to try to take advantage of that aggressiveness and let the hitter get himself out.
They've gone from a point where it was a very supposedly disciplined team, where a pitcher could get ahead with a first pitch strike. This one lined into left. So Beckham is the 3rd out. 3 up, 3 down. We go to the 6th. No score. Well, Chris Sale has retired 11 in a row and has made only 51 pitches through 5 innings.
That's ridiculous. You know, the gold standard for pitches per inning is you'd like to keep it at 15. 15 pitches an inning. In the last 2 innings, Chris Sale has thrown 13 combined and gotten 6 outs. Guess what? It's a good thing that Jake Odorizzi is throwing the ball pretty doggone good, too. 5 scoreless innings, giving up the 4 hits, 1 walk. Pitched out of a couple of tight spots, but he has settled in, and we have ourselves a pitcher's duel.
Yeah, 71 pitches through 5 for Odorizzi.
That's tremendous.
Veteran shortstop Jimmy Rollins leads it off. A ball, no strikes. Rollins 1 for 2.
You wonder if Chris Sale has ever gone this deep into the game, averaging 10 pitches an inning. Not with his strikeout numbers. No way.
That's pretty amazing.
It really is. But again, it's the aggressiveness of the Rays hitters. And Chris Sale tonight, so far, has taken advantage of that by the way he's mixing his pitches.
And when Sale pitches well, which is most of the time, he's going to be, 80 pitches through 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he's just over 50 tonight. 3-1 now to count to Rollins. Abreu next, and then Frazier. Sky to short center. Geyer makes the catch. It's the first out. Keep that leadoff man off the bases, and that's what Odorizzi has been able to do. He had a couple of spots where he'd have to pitch himself out of maybe a little jam with men in scoring position, but he had gotten the leadoff man every time, which gives him then some room to work.
Yeah. Well, and that's what he struggled with his first 2 starts, and he was excellent with that statistic all last season. So important.
And he gets a big pop-up out of Abreu down to third for Longoria. Boy, that's, you get him on one pitch like that, and he's 0 for 3 tonight.
This is like the baseball version of Name That Tune. I can finish off an inning in 5 pitches. Well, I can do it in 4. I'll do it in 8.
Yep.
I mean, both of these lineups desperate to score runs, running into pitchers that have settled in nicely.
There's Todd Frazier. Frazier singled into right in the 4th. Strike the count. First pitch strike. One. But think of the games like this Odorizzi's been in. Really, it seems every game he pitches is like this. He pitches well. He doesn't get a lot of support. It's a good pitch there for a strike, and it's 1-2. And here he is hooked up with Sale. No score. White Sox have 4 hits. The Rays 1. And a cut and a miss. Frazier's out on strikes. 1, 2, 3. Go the White Sox. Sports Sum is brought to you by Ram Trucks, Guts, Glory Ram. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by your Southern Chevy dealers. On to the home half of the 6th. Brad Miller is hitting out of the 8th spot, originally occupied by Kiermaier. A 1-0 count. 1, Casale next, and then Dickerson. Two and 1. Mid-90s fastball still very much there. Looking for a strike.
And to Brad Miller, it's got to look like that pitch is coming from behind him with the arm angle created.
Ground ball for the shortstop, Rollins. Well, that's 12 in a row. One gone in the 6th inning.
The catcher, Kurt Casale.
He did see 5 pitches, though. And that's a step.
As many as sailed through almost in the 5th. When he made 8, he made 5 pitches in the 4th. One gone. Now the Rays catcher. Strike call.
Well, right there, back-to-back changeups, trying to entice Casale to an early swing and an early out.
It's a high fly ball, not too deep to left, higher than it is deep. Cabrera makes the catch.
Well, you know, a guy like Chris Sale, these guys that have, we saw that with the Indian starters, Carrasco and Salazar and Kluber. These guys that have plus stuff and are strike throwers, they put you in a tough spot because you want to be aggressive against them, because if you're not, then they're going to sit 0-2, 1-2, and with the stuff that they have, they're going to put you away because they rack up the big strikeout numbers. But if you get aggressive with them and almost overly aggressive with them, Chris Sale has shown the ability here tonight to adjust the game plan and take advantage of that by a lot of first pitch off speed.
Yeah,
good luck.
Therein is the challenge when you're facing a guy who can throw hard,
yeah,
but who can also pitch.
That is the difference. That's the difference. He's not just a brain-dead heaver that's just going to keep trying to throw 100. He can adjust. He can go get it when he wants it, but he can also say, if you want to swing early, how about this changeup? And get a lot of 1-pitch, 2-pitch outs.
Yeah.
And that's being a pitcher.
And, you know, that's using all your stuff with a purpose. You know, some guys that go out, well, I got all these pitches. I'm going to throw this one. I'm going to throw that one. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. And what we're seeing with Sale is a good, solid, professional pitcher who has a great arm.
Maturing.
Yeah.
You know, he has matured over the years, and it's not about just seeing how hard I can throw with every pitch. It's I'm moving it around. I'm taking a little off. I always know in my back pocket I've got 96, which must be pretty nice.
This one is high, 2-2. I always like it when you talk about that. Your eyes light up.
Yeah.
96 in the back pocket must be nice.
Oh, man. See, I would have been a brain-dead heaver. I would have tried to throw that every single time. 96, 98, and just move it around. How hard can you go?
There's a shot into right field. Eaton on a run, and oh! He makes a leaping catch in line with the 370 marker. Adam Eaton, who's gone from center field to one of the corners in right, and boy, you talk about giving the White Sox a lift in the outfield. He does in right field and made a great catch right there. On to the 7th, no score. This game moves into the 7th inning, and here's what's coming up tomorrow on Rays Live. Pre-game show presented by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. Kevin Kiermaier in line to receive his platinum glove. We're waiting for word on him coming out of that collision, and Arestas breaks down right fielder Adam Eaton, who just made that great catch. 7th inning underway with Melky Cabrera fouling off a pitch. Cabrera singled in the 4th. He's 1 for 2. Pitch is up, and it's 1-1. We'll give Rizzi the jump in the count. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, Jake, changing speeds and moving it around. This at bat right here has been breaking ball, fastball, changeup. Oh yeah,
and they got him. Strike 3 call. Cabrera parting word there with Manny Gonzalez.
Well, Jake Odorizzi, what he does is he gets you looking all over the zone. You're looking for any pitch in any spot, and that was a good one right there. I know that he had some words with Manny Gonzalez asking him where that pitch was, but that was right there on the corner. A tremendous offering by Jake.
Brett Lawrie takes the first pitch for a ball. Popped up, foul. Longoria with the better angle. Casale moves to the left and lets Longoria take care of that. So 2 outs here in the 7th, and we'll check in with Todd right now. Todd, what have you got for us?
Well, we just found out from the Rays clubhouse, Dwayne, the update on Logan Forsythe. Logan, in that collision with Kevin Kiermaier, suffered a bruised left leg and bruised left hip. Kevin Kiermaier still being evaluated, guys.
All right. Well, there's the story on Forsythe. Bruise to the left leg and hip.
You know what I think we ought to do?
Pitch is a strike to Garcia.
I think we should just forego these updates on injuries, because you know that not too much is going to be let out early, and so we got to go the hockey route. Upper body injury, lower body injury. Period.
Yep.
Let's just do that.
Yeah, it's become, well, you know, the game can be secretive anyway, and there are a lot of misdirection plays, and we've seen a lot of that. You know, we just had a series where there are a couple of guys injured, and there were all kinds of guesses as to what was really going on. And no one wants to give away any advantage that the opposition might be able to take.
Especially in this day and age of instant information, social media. So that's why you just come out and say, Logan Forsythe, lower body injury. We're going to assume Kevin Kiermaier, an upper body injury. And let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, and we'll see how they progress. Yeah, it's no longer the days when you could give a detailed injury report, but it only spread via Pony Express.
That team that you were playing the next day or in a couple of, they weren't going to find out.
Yeah.
They weren't going to find out until you rolled into town on the train.
That's right.
Nobody's tweeting.
2-2 on Garcia. He fouls that one back. Fastball up. You can see how high in that strike zone Odorizzi was going.
Yeah, and you know what? You can go higher. We've seen him swing at a pitch that was up around his neck earlier in this ball game, and you can take that little number 6 right there and take it up above the 1 and still get a swing.
And he strikes him out. He goes down and strikes him out. 7th inning stretch time. No score.
he had on baseball is everlasting. He changed this game. It's not only America's pastime now, it's like a worldly or a universal pastime, because he opened up the doors for people of all races and all colors to play, not just Black American, but Dominican, Cuban, Asian. I mean, there's such an influx of cultures and ethnicities now, and it's all due to him.
Bottom of the 7th inning, the Rays facing Chris Sale, who's retired 14 in a row. Jake Odorizzi has retired 11 straight. And here's Brandon Guyer trying to get something going against this tough lefty. Fouls the first pitch away. Sale starting Guyer with a fastball. One. Xavier Cedeno now up in the Rays bullpen. Rizzi, 7 innings tonight, 94 pitches. Sale working here in the 7th. 3 pitches into this at bat. The 4th pitch is a strike to make it 2-2. He's working on 68 pitches right now.
Both of these guys here tonight economical. A lot of strikes.
And a cut the miss. Guyer out on strikes.
I'll tell you one other thing with Chris Sale, throwing a lot of off speed early in counts now, the change up, the breaking ball. When he ends up going back to the fastball later, that 96 probably looks like 106. And you can see that he was able to power that right by Brandon Guyer. And you see Brandon not even with a stride there. He's just trying to stay put and put the ball in play against this tough lefty with 2 strikes. And it still beat him.
Longoria takes a big cut. Strike 1.
Another first pitch changeup.
Well, if you're on deck and you see that last pitch to Guyer and you go up there, I mean, you think, I have to be ready for that heat.
That's where it gets you. That's why when you take the pitchers that have elite stuff, but they pitch with it, that's why they're elite pitchers. They're not just guys with great arms.
Ground ball down to third. Frazier makes the throw. 2 first. 2 outs. Strikeout and a ground out. We'll go back to Todd Callis. Todd?
Dwayne, getting ready for the battle of the Lakeland Dreadnoughts for the 3rd time tonight. Steve Pearce coming to the plate for the Rays, facing Chris Sale. Pearce's younger brother Kyle was on the same baseball team with Chris Sale at Lakeland High School, and he thought there'd be some family members here today from the Pearces, but Steve's aunt is having a birthday party tonight, so instead of being at the ballpark, they're all having a watch party at a restaurant in Lakeland for this battle between the Lakeland High School guys.
Juggernaut of the Dreadnoughts.
I love that name.
Liner into left. There's a base hit. Pearce around first and decides to hang on there. And the Rays got a 2-out single from their first baseman, Steve Pearce. That snaps a streak of 16 in a row retired by Sale.
Well, he was making it look easy, and Steve Pearce here gets the better of him. Mislocation is all that was. Trying to get that pitch down in a way. It stays middle of the plate around the thighs, and Steve Pearce, he unloads on it into left field and breaks the streak, gives the Rays a base runner here with 2 outs.
Desmond Jennings. Upstairs, Jennings single back in the 2nd inning. The Rays did not have another hit nor a base runner until the base hit by Pearce with 2 outs in the 7th. Jennings looking for his first extra base hit of the year. 8 hits, all for singles. He's been hitting 267 on the year right now. Up and out of the zone. 2-1. Little extra on that one from Sale.
First time we've really seen him come out of his delivery just a little bit, overthrowing that pitch. Well, interesting to see here too what he comes with in the 2-1 count. Desmond Jennings going to be ready for that fastball, you know that.
And does he get it? No.
No, and you know what? He started that breaking ball about 6 inches off the plate away, and it ended up about 6 inches off the plate in. The thing swept like 3 feet.
(3-1) ground ball short. Rollins will take it to first and safe there. Abreu tried to scoop it with a backhand, and the inning will continue on what appeared to be a routine ground ball.
Absolutely routine ground ball. Jimmy Rollins fields it cleanly, going to make the throw over, an easy throw. He just shorts it. Shorts it. Abreu can't come up with it. Maybe this is the break that the Rays needed.
Well, Steven Souza Jr. will be the hitter with men at first and third. So Rollins charged with an error. First and second. Pierce at second and Jennings at first on the error.
Well, here's your break. Cash it in.
Souza Jr. 0 for 2 tonight. And he misses that first one, a fastball. 97.
I don't think that Mr. Sale is real happy how this inning has gone after the 2 quick outs. Gives up the hit to Pierce. Inning extended by an error.
Look out. Pitch fouled into the stands. The count 0-2. Foul ball into the stands that got through the opening in the screen. That screen has been extended, but there's an opening there in the camera well area, and it hit a fan. Yeah, that was a hot shot, direct hit. Souza fouling that pitch. The fan being attended to at the moment. Two men on with 2 men out. And Souza back in. It's up and away. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Bit. Sale looking for that pitch. Let's see where it was on the box track there, off in. miss. So Souza out on strikes. The Rays lead 2 on to the 8th scoreless. Baseball observing Jackie Robinson Day today. The anniversary of Jackie Robinson in 1947 breaking the color barrier, becoming a member of the Brooklyn Dodgers. All the players and coaches wearing number 42, including the plate umpire, Manny Gonzalez. Xavier Cedeno takes over on the hill for the Rays. Odorizzi made 94 pitches in 7 innings. Gave up 4 hits, no runs, with 6 strikeouts and a walk. As we mentioned, in the bottom of the 7th inning, a fan hit by a line drive, a foul ball that made its way through the netting in the open V by the camera well. And we're going to take a little time here for the fan to be carefully removed. And there is a gurney stretcher being brought out, and they're going to do that right through the camera well on the field. And no information beyond what we have observed to this point. And when and if we receive that, we will pass that along. But in the meantime, before Cedeno will take over and pitch against the White Sox, there will be some time here while the EMTs address the situation at hand just beyond the camera well, short of the Rays dugout on the first base side. Steven Souza Jr., who was at the plate and who had that foul ball deflect directly through the V cutout in the screening, is, as you can see him up in the stands now to observe the procedure. And the EMTs very careful in this situation Souza Jr., of course, concerned, as are all the Rays, but it's a situation where obviously Souza bear no responsibility for that, but he's still the human side of him showing there, where he was concerned about the injury.
You could see that during the course of that at bat. Never want to be a part of anything like that.
EMTs want to make sure everything is stabilized there. You can see the concern on Souza's face as he was in the Rays dugout along the railing there. Souza serving as the designated hitter tonight. Fan now being carefully removed from the seating area down through the camera well. The EMTs were there immediately to address that situation and stabilize the situation as much as possible. And this, as we've seen over the last few years, a concern in Major League Baseball, and one of the reasons they have extended the netting. And you do have to wonder at some point how far that netting will be extended.
I mean, we've seen some shots that, you know, that first, second row just above the dugout. The netting doesn't quite go down that far yet, but you're right. It's, well, then the simple fact of where that section was and just that little tiny opening that you're talking about. Scary stuff.
Yep, scary indeed. And so our thoughts and prayers and hearts go out to that fan and the family. And so we move into the 8th inning. And Xavier Cedeno, after that delay, he had warmed up and then waited until the fan was attended to. And now we resume play. First pitch to Alex Avila, the catcher, is a strike. Avila is 0 for 2 tonight. A couple of ground ball outs, including a double play ground ball in the second, all of that against Odorizzi. And there's strike 2. And Jake at 94 pitches, no runs, 7 hits, or 7 innings, 4 hits, a walk and 6 strikeouts. And Avila is out on strikes. It's the first out in the 8th. quick look at Jake Odorizzi's night. It was a good one.
It certainly was, and he got better and better as the game moved on, and he just got into that groove of working those pitches around the strike zone like we so often see him do, and sprinkle in the changeup, some curveballs, the occasional cutter, and he just did a great job of manipulating the strike zone, changing speeds, and tonight really a great job of changing eye levels.
Austin Jackson chops it foul. Well, the Rays off to a 3-6 start, not what they had planned on and hoped for, but this is the kind of outing that they have been looking for from their starting pitching. 7 innings of excellent baseball.
Knowing that each and every night they're capable of doing just that.
There's strike 2. The Rays come into this game hitting .210 as a team. Well, they're going to obviously hit more than that before the year's out, quite a bit more than that. And so what they're hoping is to consistently get the starting pitching that they've encountered over the last few years. There's a cut and a miss, and Jackson is out, and Casale's pegged down to Pierce. So back-to-back strikeouts. And they have, on the offensive side, faced Chris Sale tonight and have no runs and just 2 hits against him. So while they were not happy with yesterday's performance against Cleveland, and Kevin Cash was pretty forthcoming about that, but also recognizes that they were 9 games into the season. Here's a bunt by Eaton, and the flip to first, out there. Cedeno to Pierce, and it's a 1-2-3 8th inning. Take a look on the bunt attempt by Eaton as Cedeno made a nice play to get him. No score. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Sun is brought to you by Ram Trucks, Guts, Glory Ram. By Checkers, Fast Foodies know the deal. And by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. On to the bottom of the 8th inning tonight. Tim Beckham leads off against Chris Sale. Beckham has struck out and lined to left. There's a fly ball into right. Eaton is there in routine manner, makes the catch. Rays coming into play tonight had scored 24 runs on the year. Only the Twins and the Mets had scored fewer runs. The Twins just 14 and the Mets 20. Rays and the Braves each 24. The Rays no runs tonight. There's Brad Miller. A late entry into this game in the 5th inning. And a strike. Miller entered along with Corey Dickerson when Logan Forsythe and Kevin Kiermaier collided in the outfield, with Forsythe making a catch on a popper. That ended the top of the fourth. And both left the game. Foul ball. Still 2 strikes. No additional report yet on Kiermaier. And the report on Forsythe was a bruise to his left hip and leg. Miller out on strikes. 2 up, 2 down.
You know, and that unfortunate happening, it forces in 2 left-handed hitters against a guy that you know just is so difficult against lefties. It takes out, you know, Kiermaier, a guy that, you know, can change the way the game in so many different ways. Plays in center field, speed if he's able to get on base against Sale, and your leadoff hitter, Logan Forsythe, who, you know, has been swinging the bat well. So, I mean, just all the way around an unfortunate series of events. Obviously, health of those 2 players of the most concern. And you hope that there's not any length of time that they have to miss.
Big cut and a miss. Casale missed the fastball. He's down 0-2. 8 strikeouts for Sale, all swinging 3rd strikes. And ahead of the Rays catcher, Kurt Casale. 1-2.
Be careful here, because you get a guy looking at that fastball off the plate away. This is the time to rush one in. Not going to stay away.
Goes to 2-2.
Everything away from Casale. He does have good power. Scoreless game late. You do not want to get beat in, but boy, he's set up for that pitch right here.
And this one drops low. Stayed away from the hard stuff there. Now 3-2. And strike 3 called. How about that? Breaking stuff. Called 3rd strike. On to the 9th, scoreless. Heroes tonight in this opening game of the series. Rays and the White Sox. Chris Sale and Jake Odorizzi headed into the 9th, scoreless. Right now, let's check in with Todd Callis for an update. Todd?
Yeah, Dwayne, a scary moment, as you mentioned a while ago, with a fan being hit by a line drive off a foul ball. She was taken away on a stretcher. She was conscious. She was talking. and she will be taken to Bayfront Medical Center for further evaluations. If we have any more information before we go off the air, certainly we will pass it along, but that's the latest, guys.
Okay, thanks for staying on top of that, and we again send our good wishes, thoughts, and prayers with her as Alex Colomé takes over on the hill. 1 perfect inning, 2 strikeouts for Cedeno, who followed 7 superb innings from Odorizzi. Jimmy Rollins will face Alex Colomé. First pitch is down, a ball, no strikes. Colomé worked Tuesday. Ground ball back at first, foul. 1-1. Colomé worked in the 5-1 Rays victory over the Indians. Pitched to 1-2-3 ninth inning. Rollins picking up his 2nd double of the year in the 1st inning. It's the ball upstairs, 2-1.
Well, Alex Colomé has really taken to his role coming out of the bullpen. He's got the stuff for it, power stuff. He's able to command it.
Liner into left. That's going to be charged and caught or trapped. Trapped, says C.B. Buckner. And Rollins is aboard. A sinking line drive out there that Jennings went after and tried to make that shoestring catch. And Desmond trapped it on the short hop.
Boy, he almost got there. This is a very, very gutsy attempt. I mean, so close. And oh, by the way, if that ball bounds by you, I mean, Jimmy Rollins is still running. So that was a heck of a play to come with the scoop. But I think they're going to take a look. Maybe trying to make that claim that the ball didn't hit the turf. It hit the front edge of the glove and bounded up to the heel of the glove. That's the only thing that they could be taking a look at here. But it's that close and in a game this tightly contested. And that's what Desmond's saying.
Talking
hey,
with Geyer out there.
Hit the edge of my glove.
Well, let's see.
It's worth a shot.
Yep. So the play under review. Well, what do you think? I'll tell you. If you look at it that way, they may have to slow this one down frame by frame. Now remember, it's the burden here.
Yes.
And take a look at the turf. What happens with the turf out there on that one?
Well, you claim that was caused by the tip of your glove too.
Was it clear and convincing?
I don't think that this is going to go the Rays' way. Understand the attempt, realize that it's close, you take a shot. We'll see.
C.B. Buckner out there along with Field and Culberth. And so that's a base hit. So the Rays with now a one-on, nobody out situation facing Jose Abreu. Confirmed is the ruling on that call. Here's Jose Abreu. And a strike called. Abreu, nothing of 3. Nice stop by Casale on the swing and miss. 0-2.
Well, that's a frustrating start to this at bat by Jose Abreu. Takes a fastball that's right down the middle and then swings at that pitch in the dirt. Alex Colomé with a nice change of pace right there. And a nice job by Casale to keep it close and in front.
Again, blocked. Same pitch. Casale down there to stay in front. Back in is Rollins. Ooh, pretty close right there to take the count to 2-2. Fastball in off the plate. And Foxcrack shows more than a little off. He got him. Oh, that's a nice pitch. After that prior pitch in, to come back with that one and get him to chase.
You shorten up a guy's arms, and then all of a sudden you extend him with this breaking ball here down. I could not have placed that any better. Alex Colomé, you know, I tell you, not only is he adapted to the coming out of the pen very well, but the stuff plays up. And he still comes out 3 or 4 pitches. You know, a lot of guys, they go to the bullpen, they become a 2-pitch guy. Colomé can still give you that fastball. He'll throw the changeup. He'll throw the slider. Still a lot of different ways to get you out.
Frazier fouls it on a check swing. Yeah, because Colomé on that fastball can give you late life with the fastball too. I've seen an example of it right there.
He stays so quiet in his delivery, and then that ball, it's like a bazooka. It just, boom, blows out of there.
Fly ball towards center. Geyer over there, and so is Dickerson. Dickerson makes the catch, and Rollins tags and moves into second base.
Well, you had a little bit of a communication issue out there between, you know, Geyer and Dickerson, and that you're not able to get a whole lot into the throw at this point. And so that's where you see the tag up by Rollins. His ball's deep out there in right center field. You can see him going back, and then the catch there by Dickerson. You see he's kind of flat-footed. He's calling it. Brandon Geyer's going to peel behind, but flat-footed, can't get a lot into the throw. And that allows Rollins to get into scoring position here with 2 outs.
Yeah, and that's a great read by a veteran.
Yes.
Rollins, the base runner, moving up. And especially when that outfielder is unable to position himself so that his momentum is toward the infield when he makes the catch.
Yeah, if anything, there was almost a lean back. And there's just no chance there. And Melky Cabrera, who's been swinging a hot bat at the dish.
Cabrera 1 for 3 tonight. Came in hitting .324. Side. Ground ball. It's going to go through into right, a base hit. Dickerson with the pickup. Throw will come through, but not in time. Rollins scores from second, and Cabrera, the veteran, drives in the go-ahead run to make it 1-0.
That's now five straight multi-hit games for Melky Cabrera. That's how hot he's been. The move up by Rollins looms large, and he finds a hole on the right side. And just like that, the White Sox break out in front here in the ninth.
Pierce throwing himself at that ground ball that got through into right. And Cabrera gives Chicago the only run of the game. Here's Brett Laurie. Strike on the outside edge. Now action in the bullpen for the White Sox. Jake Patrica. Little tap foul. 0-2. Laurie out on strikes. White Sox get a run, leave a man. Rays will have the top of the order due up at the bottom of the ninth.
good life.
The count is 1-2.
Hit up the line.
2-1. Sale just over 100 pitches. That takes the count to 3-1. The fourth three-ball count he's had on a hitter tonight. And a fly ball hit back into left. Carey, Cabrera to the wall. Oh, he makes the catch. Geyer got some carry on that ball and just not quite enough. Cabrera had room in left to make the catch for out number 2.
Oh, that is maddening. That is maddening. He gets the count and puts a good swing on this offering, and boy, you thought right there with the ball off the bat, the trajectory. We know Brandon Geyer's got strength. That ball's going to get into the seats. That's close.
Well, 2 gone in the 9th. Here's Evan Longoria. Pitch is away. Evan with a strikeout and 2 ground balls to third tonight. Fouled back. 1-1. Apologize for the technical issues here as the Rays and the White Sox play in the bottom of the 9th. 2 gone, bases empty in a 1-0 game. Lifted into right. Eaton closing is there to make the catch. And the Rays have been shut out tonight. They go down 1-2-3 in the 9th. And the Chicago White Sox take the first game of this series. It's a 1-0 final. And the Rays have been shut out for the 2nd straight game. 6-0 yesterday to the Indians. And 1-0 to the White Sox, and Chris Sale here tonight. As Sale picks up his 3rd win, he's 3-0. And Colomé will be the losing pitcher giving up a run in the 9th inning.
Chris Sale tonight, boy, he had a game plan coming in, and boy, did he execute it. I mean, a lot of off speed we saw early in counts. Knew how to put guys away. He got a lot of early in the count outs. Economical with the pitch count. Survived a scare from Brandon Guyer with 1 out in the 9th inning, and rolls out a 1-0 shutout here tonight. That was a fantastic job by the White Sox lefty.
So Chris Sale goes the distance, throws a 1-0 shutout. Coming up, Rays Live, the postgame presented by Checkers. Todd Narestis will be along to anchor the coverage. We'll hear from Kevin Cash in his press conference, and Emily Austin will have interviews from the clubhouse on a night in which the Chicago White Sox and the Rays hook up in a great game. A 1-0 final. Took 2 hours and 23 minutes to play it, and the White Sox come away with a victory over the Rays 1-0. Same 2 teams tomorrow in the middle game of this series. We'll be with you. Now for Brian Anderson and the rest of our crew, Dwayne Stats. Hope you enjoyed the telecast, if not the outcome. White Sox 1, Rays 0. Rays Live, the postgame comes your way next.